of their position. And Cyrille.
Ma che è sta roba? Stai utilizzando? Ma io non capisco. Chiudiamo, va che è meglio.
Maria, ti abbiamo sentita? Ok, va bene, adesso non ti sentiamo, ok. She said that she has some trouble with Zoom, but she fixed it, ok.
Okay. Where did I stop? Cyrille Cartier, I guess, member of the Zagreb-based collective Women to Women, an initiative of Živi, atelje. The collective is composed of women who call Croatia their home, as well as women who want Croatia to become their home. So welcome, the three of you. Okay, sorry, now I have a problem. Okay, everybody's here. Francesca is not here. Okay, so let's start.
We are live on Facebook, so she managed.
Very good.
Just recording and we are all here.
Very good. So we are going to start now, like with the discussion. I would ask you, like in the same order. So Silvia first, can you please tell us something about the situation on field and about the activities that you actually do now on the field?
Yeah, I am based in Biac in Bosnia and Herzegovina, on the northwestern part of the country. The number of refugees, asylum seekers, people on the move in Bosnia and Herzegovina actually is around 9,000 people. And most of them are on this part of the country. There are in total 7 reception centers in Bosnia and Herzegovina managed by IOM organization. But on the 3rd of September, one of the bigger camps has to be closed, Bira camp in Bihać, because of political reason. And also since August, many people cannot register in camps because in Unasana canton, where there are 5 of the 7 camps that I mentioned, the Unasana government took a decision by themselves without asking permission to central government took the decision not to allow new people to register in the camps. That brings to a big problem because around 2,000 people are outside of camps, sleeping in old buildings and old houses, but especially in the so-called jungle camps. And the weather, of course, is turning colder and colder every day. Also, these people don't have easy access to shops and markets, so they cannot provide by themselves for food. They don't have clothes, so they live without water. They need to go to the river to use water, and it's very frustrating. Also, there are big problems for the people that try to go to the so-called game, means they attempt to cross the borders between Bosnia and Croatia, but in general, the game is how they call the way to go on from country to country. And of course, the Croatian police is taking a strong control of their areas. The same happens with Slovenia and with Italian border too. And means a lot of people is coming back, pushback with violent pushback. And we see people faces really a very bad experience in this period. There are mostly men, mainly from Pakistan, Afghanistan, but also other countries from the region like Iran, Iraq, Syria. There are mostly single men, but there is a big percentage also of unaccompanied minors and families with kids. Means a lot of children are around, and also them, they cannot come inside the camps. They are not allowed to enter the camps in Unasana. So means that all the camps are full, even if I mean, all the camps in Sarajevo are full because the people in Unasana don't have space to go. And there are big problems also related to the transport because the people in Unasana cannot take bus, public transport. And every day the police go in the squad, kick out the people, move them to a camp that is called Lipa, that is in the middle of nothing, 30 kilometers from here, but the camp is full. IOM don't accept these people, and so they come back by walking to Biac, and the police catch them again, and so on. And also the local population at the moment is really hostile. They don't want anymore in Biac and in Kladuša refugees, migrants. So they organize protests. They also hunt somehow migrants. There are Facebook groups in which they say, where are groups, they call the police or themselves go to take the people. And also there are many violence between migrants themselves because of course people is desperate. So they took away money, telephones, everything, one from the other, the so-called Alibaba. It means when the thieves get on the field and take away the things. So it's very hard period, even harder than in the last years, I can say. And we don't know exactly what is going to go on, because of course there was a big reaction from European Union when Una Sana Canton decided to close the camp and move people to nowhere. So European Commission, United Nations, American Embassy in Bosnia and Herzegovina react strongly to the decision of Una Sana. The central government of Bosnia and Herzegovina call Una Sana government to tell them what are you doing, basically. And they say you must open Bira back, but at the moment the governor of Una Sana Canton, that is this region from Bihać side, let's say, and the major of Bihać, they're making some kind of I don't know if they're just taking time to show to their population that the situation is under control, or what is going on really. We just know what is the effect on the life of these people, and it's I don't know, unbearable. That's it from here for now.
Okay, thank you very much, Silvia. I would continue with Tajana. Can you tell us something about the situation in Croatia and about the activities that you've done recently to reply the needs that are now accurate?
So what we see in Croatia are the consequences of everything that happens in Bosnia and everything that happens on the borders, like the pushbacks and so on. But I have to add that these pushbacks and the denial of access to international protection doesn't only happen in the borders, it happens from deep in the territory. And also we have logged cases of chain pushbacks from Slovenia to Croatia and then to Bosnia. And we've done this as a part of a border violence monitoring network, which every month publishes collected testimonies of violence. And in January this year, there was also another report published, and actually in which actually you can see that the actions that the Croatian police is undertaking against these people on the move, they actually amount to torture and inhuman, cruel, and degrading treatment. And as Silvia said, we can also, I mean, myself personally, I noticed this trend that the violence is escalating. And it's becoming much more cruel, and it's becoming much more like what you see. What we see are the consequences of the police acting with impunity for years now, because this is a problem that we have been warning about since 2017, when we actually published the first report on the illegal pushbacks of refugees. Of course, the government and the Ministry of Interior will continually deny these allegations and these all of the testimonies that have been collected. And in some instances, they say, the NGOs have some motivations of their own, and they have, I don't know, we want to prevent Croatia from entering Schengen and things like that. And why would we want that? Of course we want a better life for all citizens of Croatia. But this is what they're implying, and in some moments it was also implied that activists are dressing up as border police and actually beating the migrants, which was really, really bizarre, a bizarre moment in all of this. And of course, the general discourse is that the migrants cannot be trusted, because in the media discourse, they're just you don't see people anymore. You only see illegal migrants anywhere. Whenever something happens, it's an illegal migrant, and this is something that has dehumanized them to such a point, that very few people, I would say, react to what is happening to them in our country, to these like gross human rights violations that are happening. because simply they're not considered as human. And this word illegal, of course, implies criminality on that part, even though, you know, crossing a border irregularly is still a small misdemeanor. And as Silvia said, most of the people who manage actually to come to our office and to our integration center are single men, but there are also families present. Just yesterday, we had two families from Afghanistan and Iran, and they had small children with them. And it was a really difficult case, for example, of a man who he has asylum in Germany, and he left, his wife and child stayed in Iran. The wife died, and the child couldn't get a visa because she's too young. So he had to go back to get her. And when he was coming back to Croatia, the Croatian police ripped up his documents. So it's really, and this is just one of the cases where it's incredibly difficult actually to hear all these things and to follow it all the time. And I was genuinely shocked. I mean, not shocked, but really, one time this 12-year-old girl who was traveling with her sister, she came to our office and she said, you know, I don't understand. There was a woman, a police officer, who told us, she pointed to an imaginary line on the ground and she said, if you cross this line, I will shoot you. To, you know, a 12-year-old child and her 18-year-old sister. And this, I think that we have, the government actually has created a monster with this refusal of actually trying to, you know, to prosecute someone, because not a single police officer has been criminally, you know, processed, or, you know, not even, of course, there were no court cases, no nothing, even though there are also cases of whistleblowers who have reached out to the ombudsperson's office to say, yes, this is true, this is happening, you know, help us, we don't want to do this anymore. But it's because of course you have a situation where there is no independent border monitoring mechanism. And of course, there is no independent body which would monitor the work of the police. So what happens usually to us and to colleagues from the Center for Peace Studies is that when we try to make a report of, you know, something happening, the police says, yes, we investigated it and nothing happened. So of course, when you investigate yourself, everything is going to be fine. No violations happened. Yeah.
Thank you, Tajana. Cyrille, I'm not going to ask you about Croatia, but I'm going to ask you about the direct work that you are doing on the field, and what are maybe the examples of those things that mentioned here before when you work on the field.
Well, I mean, like in hearing what Silvia and Tajana were saying, I think it's sort of like the broad context in which we work. So we're a small NGO, nonprofit NGO that does work on art and engaged art. And I think what this has been forcing us to do in terms of what's happening on the broader context is not to change completely direction, but to diversify some of our activities. So, for example, one of the things we did, so within our NGO, we have this bigger project called No Borders. And one of them is a yearly art project workshop where we bring diverse people together and do an intense workshop and then have a traveling exhibition with the art and the artists to different places in Croatia. And that's quite, the workshop itself is sort of small and intense, but then the part that goes out in the public is key. And that's basically to help bring public awareness and to help to change the sort of image that people have about who these asylum seekers and these refugees are, and to reconnect really on a human level, to sort of return dignity and respect, and create a foundation for relations between people. And then there is the other part is the Women to Women collective. And that is something that happens on a continuous basis every week since 2016. And I would say that in the last year or two, one of the things we have been doing, and I can go back to talk about what we do, but one of the things we have definitely been doing is to try to reach out more to the public. That is through a bazaar that we have on our premises, but also we have a project for which we are trying to get funds where with some of the things that we've done with women, different women, and when I say women, it's all women, women for whom Croatia is home, like myself, or someone who was born here, with women who are making Croatia their home, and is to go to different places, a little bit more off the beaten path, so not necessarily Rijeka or along the coast, but places like Sisak or Karlovac or Pakrac or Osijek, places that themselves have a lot of wounds from the last war, and where there is some sort of resentment, or at least very much a lack of preparation for the idea of having newcomers come into their communities. And so we're trying to do more of those type of projects to sort of step outside of this intimate and safe space that we've created, but to really work more with the public directly.
How would you describe the reaction of the public in general for those actions that you do?
Well, the one that I've talked about, we haven't done yet. That's we're waiting for the funds to do that. To be able to go out. I suspect that it's going to be positive, but this is a different one in that we're not going out at all as Žene Ženama. We're not going out as refugees. We're just going out as it's more about art and tea and ceramics and glass. So then we expect to have a diverse public. For some of the other exhibitions that we've done, it's very obvious what we are doing. And so we expect that we only get a certain kind of public. Just like in this conversation now, probably the majority of people are already acclimatized to what we're doing and somehow embracing of what we're all doing. And so the idea is, how do you reach out to people who think differently, or who at least haven't gotten, I would say, the opportunity to have real interactions with people, so that all they see, as Diana was saying, are criminalized people, or single men, or Alibaba, as opposed to someone who you could actually be good friends with, who could be your partner, or whatever. And so that needs to happen more.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I wanted to ask you maybe to continue with the same question, or whatever you wanted to say.
This is also like the border violence monitoring and the advocacy things we do are only a small part, actually, of our programs. We also have a small office and so-called integration center, even though that name is a bit too clinical for me. And we have a free shop. And this is a place, where people, where both refugees and the so-called native community can come, and they can meet each other. They can be, in a relaxed environment where there is no, facilitator. There is no cultural mediator. It's not like, it's just a relaxed interaction between human beings. And on one side, like people. We've had excellent reactions from people like who bring donations, because of course our shop depends on donations from citizens. And we have had an excellent reaction to our fundraising campaign, which we did because of the Corona crisis. So we identified people who will be at risk of homelessness and who are at risk of poverty. And like the reaction of citizens was incredible. Like, 23,000 euros in like 3 weeks. This for me, it gave me a little bit more hope for our society, in general. And I mean, I can't say that all the reactions are positive all the time. It simply, in our line of work, that's never gonna happen. And I mean, for me, it's really interesting because I've been also doing this since 2015. I've started out as a volunteer, and I've been, for example, in Preševo, in Dimitrovgrad, and I've been to, to Belgrade parks at night, to all the sort of risky and dangerous places, so to speak. And the only time I've actually felt at risk and was endangered was when we were receiving death threats from Croatians, and when our offices were vandalized by people who live here. So this was the only, it's like an interesting, you know, turn of, because all the time it's implied how these people are dangerous and how you will get hurt. And of course, most of us who are volunteering and working in Are You Syrious, we're women. So that's also an interesting thing.
Can I say something? Can I add a little anecdote, which I think is quite colorful? Definitely a lot of the volunteers tend to be women, but one of the, also back in 2015, I remember talking to a veteran from the last war here, and I was starting to tell him what's some of the things that I was doing, and he listened, and then at some point he stopped me and he said, you know, I don't agree with any of what you're doing, and I don't agree with any of them. I think they should all go back to their country and they should pick up arms and defend their country. Then a week later, I was on the border with Serbia, and there was a veteran, and he was obvious veteran in that he had a full camouflage gear on, and he later said that he was. And you know, and it was in the middle of the night, and he was cutting up vegetables in a tent to make hot food for incoming refugees. So I think it's important to highlight the exceptions, especially when, you know, the majority seems to be so grim, and to really empower these individuals and create opportunities for that interaction.
I'm going to.
Can I say something related to the local reaction to the things that happen and the activities?
Can you please also add the things that you think that changed during the period of time that you spent on the field, okay?
Yeah, let's say that Bihać was in 2018 one of the new points of this Balkan route. And in the beginning, the local people in Bihać and in Kladuša were helping a lot also in Sarajevo. They were bringing food, clothes, they were helping the people that were sleeping outside because at the moment there were no camps. And it was going everything, let's say, well for some months, but at a certain point, some people start to create through Facebook, especially because it's very easy to write from house very bad things without dealing with the reality. They feel very brave. But some people start to speak about migrants, refugees. They are not really refugees, of course, because they don't come from countries with the war. They are all men. When we were in the war, women and children went away and we were here fighting for our country. How is it possible? So there was a lot of rhetoric, let's say, growing on and growing on. Unfortunately, this part of Bosnia and Herzegovina, let's say that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a specific country, but Krajina, this region, is even more specific somehow. And unfortunately, this kind of people and reaction become more and more frequent, the post against the migrants, and also the manipulation of reality was really changing, because the situation was changing, because for every kind of crime, the migrants were responsible, even if it's not true. And of course, manipulation of data, like they say, look, there were three, I don't know, somebody steal something from the house or from the car, and they never show the statistic related to normal crimes that happens and the one related to the migrants that we know usually are part of the statistic too, but they're just in line with the real numbers. So it was very easy to manipulate, and the people listen to what they want to listen to. So in the last year, in 2019, the growing of this campaign was really big, and the most hard part is now in 2020, because after the corona also, I can say that corona was a problem, because of course the migrants bring the corona, as you know, everyone of us, we know that it's just from them. And there is not so much, how to say, solidarity here in Bihać. What makes me feel good somehow and still having hope is that there are some places of Bosnia and Herzegovina where the solidarity never fell down, like can be Tuzla or Sarajevo, where the situation is difficult, because it's not that in Tuzla or in Sarajevo the volunteers don't get attacked by local people, but they are a bigger number and they react always kindly, always firmly, but they don't stop doing things. Here in Biac there were volunteers doing things outside the camps, but the number of these people is very small, and the people, some of the most active volunteers in the last months, received personal attack, and they were threatened of death, especially 2 women. Again, we speak of women's solidarity, that had to stop it. Also, the children of these women had problem because the people were attacking them. They throw stone to the car when these women were passing by. So these 2 women that were somehow some institution, they had to stop. But there is still a movement that is working on silent here in Biac, that is not public, that you cannot find anywhere because it's for safety of the people that is doing something. But what is good is that still somebody is helping. Not all the people are against refugees and migrants, of course. Not all the people, but the people that are in favor, they are not strong enough to react against the number, the thousands of people that in Una Sana, in Kladush and in Biac are spreading this bad opinion and leading this situation. For this reason, it's very important also to not forget that something good is going on, but it's important to take safe these people that is doing this kind of job. For us as organization, we don't have big problems. We work mainly in the camps, in the official camps, because it's important also to be inside these places, to bring something, to bring humanity in these places. And because maybe we are Italian organization, the local people is not attacking us, even if sometimes they try to comment something in Facebook. But I think they're too much scared to attack us because we are from outside, let's say. So I don't know why, but it's still going on. Of course, whatever we do outside camps, we don't make it too much public, but of course we are also outside, let's say. And it was very interesting, just a small thing, and then I shut down myself. 2 days before, we had an activity inside Gorici camp. After the closure of Bira camp, the unaccompanied minor were bring to Bira, after the closure of Bira, these guys went to Bira, to Gorici and Sedra camps. And we already planned a workshop with the local teenager and teenager on the move. And the name of this activity was Teen Dream, something like that. And it was the first occasion in which these people met together, I mean, people of 17, 18 years old. And it was even more interesting because the refugees now cannot go out from the camps. They must stay inside because from August, again, they put the camp in lockdown because of Corona, blah, blah, blah. And the workshop was organized outside, but we had to change it because of the situation. And we get the permission to bring a teenager inside, local teenager inside the camp. And they were enthusiastic. They were really 6 or 7 of them, guys from Biac, girls and boys, that meant people, guys of the same age from Afghanistan, Morocco, Iran. And they did this exchange. And still they are writing to us that it was one of the most interesting experiences in their life, and they want to continue to go to the camps and to see these people. And it's good because they will spread outside. These guys from Biac, these young people from Biac, they will speak with the people of the same age, with their parents, and it's the only way we have to change the shitty situation.
Yeah, so basically what I noticed also in Serbia, just a small input about the situation when it comes to the media and about this pressure that you just said that is mostly on Facebook and on different Facebook groups, is that there are basically no other information about the refugees except for the bad ones. And I just read yesterday that this really small like news on one of the independent portals, and it was like 5 lines about the Asylum Protection Center. It's an organization working in Serbia with the refugees, and they said again around Subotica there are like 1,000 people outside of the official camps. period. That's it. And now, like a couple of years ago, you know, you would, I don't know, some people would maybe approach, bring them something or something. And now the judgment is so hard and so harsh that people are just like, they're afraid of publishing more information than that, you know. And this is what's actually scary. And it's not even an information, you know, like people are not doing anything about it. So like the next question I would ask you is what are the actual challenges that you face when working with these people, when we talk about the judgment of not only the judgment of the people, but also the approach of the institutions towards the organizations that are working with the refugees. Who would like to speak first?
Is she pointing at me? Okay. Yeah. Well, in our experience, in the Croatian experience, I would say that in the past 2 years or so, the criminalization of solidarity is a big problem that we have. And this is also, for example, there's this, how to call it, landmark case. And it's difficult for me, you know, to call it a case because it involves the death of a little girl, which happened after a pushback to Serbia. And I'm sure you all know her name was Madina Husini. And this moment started sort of an avalanche of everything, you know, including the criminalization of solidarity, including the pressures from the government put on both organizations who are helping refugees and who are helping this specific family, and also on our volunteers and on ourselves personally. Because there is, for example, currently a case against an Are You Syrious volunteer for the thing was that after the pushback in which Madina was killed, the family was pushed back 3 more times. And during one of the times, they managed to reach out to us. And it was the middle of the night. It was a snowstorm, and the situation was very, very bad. And of course, we were in Zagreb. They are on the Serbian border. And we were thinking, you know, what can we do to help? Because all the things that we used to do before, we would, for example, send emails to the police station, to the ministry, to UNHCR, to all the relevant organizations, you know, saying, hey, there are people here who want to ask for asylum. And we would, you know, give their data if they agreed with that. And a lot of the times it didn't help. And especially in the case of this family, it didn't help. So we asked one of our volunteers who lived the closest to that, and by closest I mean like 1 hour, you know, to go to make sure that the family approaches the police safely and that their request for asylum is that they will be able to lodge their request for asylum, which in the end did happen. But later on, I'm keeping it really short. It's a very long story. A few weeks later, our volunteer received a paper from the police, which is calling him, you know, to court, which is saying that he facilitated an illegal entry of this family into Croatia. And the ministry asked for a 43,000 euro fine, prison time, plus the prohibition of work for the legal entity, meaning for us, for an organization that's not even a part of the case, because the case is against a person, a private person. And this went on for a few months, and we actually found out from the papers that our volunteer was found guilty of unconscious negligence. So yes, the judge said that the volunteer was supposed to think that maybe the family who reached out was not in Croatia, that maybe they were in Serbia, in spite of having 3 GPS locations that confirm that they are in Croatia. So like no crossing was facilitated. I mean, the man hasn't spoken to them in their life, you know, but we of course appealed this case, and it's currently still ongoing, but this is what the ministry constantly uses in their defamation campaign, and they use it as a way to discredit us. Because, you know, while the case is ongoing, it's very easy to say, hey, these are smugglers, these are, you know, people who, you know, do all this illegal stuff, when all we ever wanted was for our own police to respect our laws and to respect international laws, and to let these people at least to ask for asylum. You know, we are not, we are realistic in what we want. We know, of course, not all of the people meet the merits of, you know, getting asylum in a country, but what they do deserve is to have their cases examined and to go through the process as they should, because this is not an asylum case isn't examined arbitrarily at the border, you know, by some police officer who, you know, can't even point out Iraq on a map, you know. So, and of course, this all of the illegal stuff that happens, it definitely shouldn't be happening. And according to the ministry, it's not. And this is a battle that we've been having, you know, for years now.
When we see that an organization is prosecuted for something, then it's kind of abstract. What we think first is like, well, we hope that they will not be forbidden to work, you know. But can you talk something about the real consequences of being on court all the time, like all the time, but time to time? What are the real consequences on the activists, like personally, and on the organization and on the work? Like, how is it affected by this?
Well, our work is like greatly affected by this, because right now there is, for example, I am the person who usually speaks in the media about these things, and I've spoken, you know, also in the European Parliament, in the Swiss Parliament, national parliaments. You know, I am sort of the voice of and the face of, you know, when everything happens, I'm the one who is accusing the police and the ministry of these things. And this has also taken like a personal toll on me, because right now the ministry is, for example, targeting my partner, who has, you know, refugee status in Croatia. So he is much more an easier target. He's the one, he's my vulnerability. And the point of all these cases, not just our cases, the cases against the NGOs in Greece, that, you know, that the Greek government has pressed charges for 25 NGOs working in Greece, and the cases against people who have been saving people in the Mediterranean. Like all of these like ridiculous cases, you know, where someone is accused of espionage because he's been using encrypted communication, meaning WhatsApp, are, you know, they're ridiculous. And but they're also, they waste your time, they waste your resources, they waste, you know, your will to work, to live. And it's very, and this is also, you know, the point of them. It's not just, I mean, these people haven't been doing any money laundering or espionage or whatever. And it's interesting that all of the people who were the organizations, you know, also who were accused of these things are the people who are actually, you know, saving people, like snatching them from the arms of death, and people who are documenting all of the violations that have been happening in Greece, you know, as well. So it's interesting that they are the ones who bear, you know, who are facing the anger of the government everywhere, you know, in the Mediterranean, in the Aegean, and here in the Balkans.
Thank you.
So, sorry for taking up so much of
question. By the question. Thank you very much. When we are talking about going in public, like what would be your, like, Silvia, you have a blog, and you are also like in the public, and Cyrille, you also like you like continuously like speaking to the public, actually, you know, in some kind of way. What would you say that your main motivation is when you're addressing the public? Is it to shock? Is it to inform? Is it to approach?
Yeah. The people don't get shocked so easily, unfortunately. So we don't shock people because even the worst thing that happens, like the Madina's death or whatever other person that died, or children or whatever happens, we are used to what we see and to what happens around. So I think this is the challenge, to answer also to your previous question. The challenge that we have to try to solve, I don't know how to say, is that the people must be informed. I am sorry, for example, because in one event like this one, or at 8 o'clock I have something else, or every day I have Zoom meeting things, blah, blah, blah. In the end, it's us. I don't know how to explain. The problem is how we go out, and it's not shocking the people. Unfortunately, yes, it is one way that still maybe works, even if I don't think so. But the problem is how to speak about what happens, for example, here on the Balkan route. I am from Italy. And when you watch the news or you read the newspaper, mainly when we speak about migration in Italy, we just speak about Lampedusa, means the island on the south, of course, the central Mediterranean route. And yeah, in the past, it was in use a lot and still is in use. It's not closed, of course. But the Balkan route in the last 3 years, okay, this year because of Corona is a little bit slowing down. But in the last 3 years, the Balkan route is the main door to Europe. And nobody speaks about it. And then, for example, in Italy, the people get surprised when you get see the statistic. Oh, these people come from Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Pakistan. Where did they come from? For sure, not from Africa. Even we have people from Africa crossing the Balkan route. There is a big group of Eritrean here in Biac, or we had people from Cuba in the past in Serbia, or we have people from Africa even in Serbia and in Bosnia and so on. And it doesn't go out, but even if it would, I don't know if it makes some kind of change. So the job, the thing that I try to do, me or my colleagues, our organization, people that are here, I think we try to continue every day to speak about what happened. Give to the people names and faces. Madina is one of these, and we met, me and Francesca, we knew Madina, she was in Bogovaja camp. We were playing with her every day. So Madina is one name and one face, but we need to give name and faces to all the other people. We created a Facebook group too that is called Dead and Missing in the Balkans, together also with Nijara from Sarajevo and other volunteers and activists, because many people die in the Mediterranean, in the Western Balkan route, not just on the Mediterranean route. And it's surprising if you see how the people mostly die in this route, it's by drowning. And when the people ask, how is it possible? There is no seaside, the people drown in the Mediterranean. No, the people die in the river, in the Drina River, in the Dobra River, here also in Una River sometimes, down in Greece on the Iros. Of course, there are a lot of situations that have no name, have no face. And it's important somehow, I don't want to say it, that I want to remember them. But for example, I was searching last year, 2 years before, and then I finished. There was this man, Ahmed, that was from Syria, and he was in Bosnia, and he came also to Biac, and then he made his journey on, and he died in November in Dobra River, and they found a body of a man 2 days after. I was making a list at that moment of the people that died on the Balkan route, taking from the news, from portals, Croatian, Slovenian, Serbian newspaper, Bosnian newspaper. And I published a list with the situation because we didn't have a name, but a family from Syria contacted me and they say, maybe there is our uncle that is dead and maybe you know for him. And I say, I don't know when he disappeared. And they gave me the name, the day and the place. And checking on the list, I found out that they found this body with no name that was somewhere in Croatia, in a place called Lipa. And I start to contact the authorities in Croatia. Also was in contact with You Syrious, with a member of You Syrious, and we try to get answer. And I send the picture of this man, the name of the family, everything that I know, and I say, I think the body that is somewhere in a morgue is the body of this Ahmed. Can you confirm it? Not to me, to the family at least. It took 1 year, but at least in the 1 year and 3 months, in March, in the 8th of March, I went to this place, village Lipa, and I spoke with the local people. I spoke with the priest of the church, and there was this grave, because I found on some, I don't know, local newspaper that some people were buried in this place. I go there and say, this body is of this man. And then through a lot of going on, also the family from Lebanon camp, through the International Red Cross, and with the information that I gave them, and also I called the faculty of medicine in Zagreb to check if the body was in the morgue. In the end, we managed to have the confirmation that that body, that grave, was from Ahmed from Syria. So this is the point. Not just helping the people on the move, but also speaking about them, treating them like person, because the point, as we said with the media, is that they are numbers and they are bad usually. But no, they are Ahmed, Mohammed, and I don't know, Fatima, whatever. So this is the point of speaking about it, not just to change public opinion. It's not that easy, but recognize them, because it could be me. This is the point. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And how often the organizations are taking the job of the institutions to fill the gaps, you know, when it comes to situations like this. Cyrille, what would you say?
Well, I remember, I think it was also last year, I had, so there's this Croatian woman who was coming regularly and to the workshops that we have. We have workshops, gatherings, sometimes we organize outings and retreats, etc. And she was feeling extremely bad with what was happening in Bosnia, and she wanted to take time off to go to Bosnia and to help. And we had this conversation, which is, it's not an easy conversation, but it sort of reminded me of the different types of work that we all do and how important all of that work together is. But she would have essentially gone and probably, you know, done things like distributing water or blankets, talking to people, playing with kids, etc. And then she would have come back to Zagreb. And it's a very different work than what we do together here in Zagreb, in the sense that here it's really about building a community, and it's really about empowering the individuals, and you really get to know people intimately. And it's not necessarily about, you know, what was their journey, where they went through. We actually make it a point never to ask anybody about that. If it comes up, it comes up, but really to focus on, you know, who are they now, their personality, their characteristics, their dreams. And when I say they, I'm really talking about all women, including this woman that I was talking about. And I was telling her, you know, if you go to Bosnia, you're going to come back and you're going to be completely drained. And you're going to have PTSD because she's had it before. And I said, why don't you save your energy for this, which is much more, it's difficult and it's challenging in another way, because you get so close to people, and it requires a sort of a constant, you're just a constant presence. And even if you're not physically with someone, it's constantly on your mind. So there's this mental space, and you need to also take care of yourself. You can't be too drained, because then if that happens, or if you go towards burnout, then you're not helping anyone, including yourself. And I'm not blaming anybody at all, but that is one of the challenges. And I think we would probably all agree is that there isn't enough care to caregivers. And caregivers, again, I'm not just talking about Croatian people or people like myself, foreigners living here, but also, for example, in the women to women group, you know, when we hear that someone got a negative response to their paper, we're all sort of grieving, and we have to sort of support each other. And then, or you know, when someone gets a positive and then eventually moves to their apartment or house, it's a celebration. But then we know that there are people going back to the reception center. And the challenges are very real, especially now. We mentioned Corona. One of the things which is, it can be a blessing and a curse. The blessing is that a lot of people, and I heard this from a lot of people here, they're saying, oh, you know, finally I had more time to myself and I really enjoyed it. And they said, you know, it's like they're aware that it comes from a position of privilege, because you've got your papers, you've got a house, you've got food or whatever, but they really needed that time off, and it was good. At the same time, you know, I don't know, I get a call from a friend of mine who is in the reception center and who just got not only a negative when he had to leave the reception center in Croatia in the middle of lockdown. And so, of course, you know, all of these things, you feel, of course, very powerless. You feel very angry. You don't know who to reach out to. You don't have the support of institutions. Essentially, you only reach out to, you know, network of friends to see if anything can happen. And so all of this continuous stress, this continuous draining, needs to somehow be addressed, and then you find energy with the things that you do, and that sort of gives you enthusiasm to move forward. And so, for example, right after Corona, we organized a party, and you know, we didn't even know whether or not we could have this party, whether it would be allowed for 50 people to get together. But we did it, and it was a party that was really, I don't know, I think we were about maybe 80 to 90 women from all over, maybe about 50-50 in terms of people who were from Zagreb. And of course there was kissing, of course there was hugging. People need that. You need that connection, you need that intimacy, especially in Corona when there wasn't so much isolation. So these personal connections, getting involved in personal stories, yeah, on one hand, for sure, sometimes I think, we should really do more for the media. But at the end of the day, that's not where the priority is. The priority really is in creating and building this community and doing integration in the way that we mean it, which is really to integration. The society is constantly changing. There's no static Croatian culture or identity. We're all, or society. And so we are all coming into this continuously dynamic society, and so we're integrating together. And so what does that look like? What do we want it to be? And so it takes you know, it's this constant cycle of enthusiasm, and then of course downtimes, and so then when you're working against, you know, oppressive regimes and police violence, that only makes it that much harder, but that much more important to do what we do. Yeah, I'll stop there for now.
Can I just add in terms, because when Cyrille mentioned integration,
Yeah.
like in Croatia.
So yeah, can you somehow give a definition of integration, how you think integration should be called and how it should look like?
Well, you know, I still haven't figured out a better name, but I know I am very unhappy with the way that it's practiced in Croatia, actually, because all of the official programs, all from which are, you know, funded by the government, which are funded through AMIF, which, you know, most of the funds are pooled into integration of people who have been granted asylum. And in our opinion, like, integration should start from the moment the person sets foot in Croatia. From the moment they ask for asylum, it should start. And this is why we made a decision in our own programs to include asylum seekers in everything. And a lot of the time we would hear, you know, why are you including asylum seekers? You know, they will just go. And there is this narrative of everywhere, you know, about Croatia being just a transit country. And we never ever ask ourselves, you know, why are we a transit country? Is because we've never even tried to create the conditions, you know, for people to stay. And of course, asylum seekers are seen as, you know, people in transit, especially if they're coming, for example, from Bosnia or Serbia. And, you know, and they are in, you know, the worst capitalist language, not a good investment. Simply, they're seen as not a good investment. And since waiting times are they can be quite long in Croatia, especially when you look at the number of people who are here. So you've had people who have been asylum seekers for, let's say, 2 years or more. And then, you know, you start integrating them after that, when, you know, half of the job, so to say, could be done. And I think that a lot of the integration practices haven't really been thought through very well, because, I mean, first of all, there were no official language classes for a very long time. And then when they finally started, they started in a way that people are, of course, very heterogeneous. There are differences in their education levels, you know, in their life situations and so on. And then you would have, let's say, Croatian classes for people who are not literate in their own language, let alone in like reading the Latin script. So there was simply, you know, what's the point of them being in this course? And of course, there's the issue of women who are primary caretakers of their children. You know, there is no, simply like childcare is very, very difficult, you know, to come by, for example, for them to be able to attend. And there's the issue of people who are working, and, you know, the times of the classes simply don't align with their schedule. But then when they fail, so to speak, in this governmental, you know, idea and language, it's their fault, because they weren't invested enough in, you know, staying in learning the language and integrating. And there is also this this weird idea on behalf of the ministry, like through relocation, through, you know, taking people from camps in Turkey and bringing them to Croatia, they always seem to bring big families with, you know, I don't know, let's say 5 or 6 small children, and where the father is the primary breadwinner. And they say, yes, because families are more susceptible to integration. When we have seen a lot of, let's say, childless couples or single people who are doing very well, you know, on their way in building, you know, their life here. So there is a lot of issues, you know, with the integration. But this is, you know, as I said, this is something that we try to address through our integration center as well. And a lot of the people who, let's say, who are in the reception center, they come to volunteer for us, because they say, and they come, hey, I need to get out of my head. I need to do something where I feel like I'm a person again. Because when you're in the camp, when you are told when to eat, when to sleep, when you can go out, when you have to like stay in, it really, you lose every sense of autonomy. And what we try to give in our space, I mean, it's very, I don't want to sound like we are, you know, something hard, that we are giving something to them, but we're simply providing an opportunity where they can feel equal to everyone else in our society, at least on this symbolic level, at least in this hour or 45 minutes that they spend with us and with other people in our place. Yeah.
Can I add to that? I think that one of the things you had asked about earlier was about the changes over time. And when we first started these workshops and gatherings, we need to find mentors and who would lead some workshops. And then when women come, you know, we'll have tea and coffee, and we try to, especially if they're men in the family, we try to tell, we try to emphasize to see if the men could take care of the children so that the women could come just as women, without being mothers or sisters or aunts or anything like that, but just to come as women and have a little break from childcare. But sometimes it was impossible, and the children are coming, and then, you know, then you adapt. But there came a point where it was always serving tea or coffee or cookies and then talking, but it wasn't very reciprocal. And what's happened over time is that the space has changed. It's sort of been a space for all of us. And so the line between who is serving and who is hosting and who is receiving is very blurred. Who is leading a workshop is also very blurred. You know, who has talents in certain areas and who doesn't, also blurred. And that's actually, it takes time, and it's a continuous work. I think also in terms of, I think for me, one of the things about integration, the first thing, and to continuously do it, is to break down this idea of us versus them. And say we're talking about asylum seekers or people with asylum.
Okay.
Cyrille, we can't hear you so well anymore.
I sent her a message.
Can I add
Yes,
just
you'll be back.
something related to integration?
Sylvia, and then
Cyrille, you
we'll
want?
back to you, Cyrille, okay? Because your internet was interrupting, so we're.
Of course, the environment here in Bosnia and Herzegovina is not so friendly for refugees and people on the move. And we know that Bosnia is a transit country. Most of the people don't want to stay in Bosnia and Herzegovina, especially because also it's not even a European Union country. And of course, when you see what expect you here, many people go away. Also because Bosnia and Herzegovina itself is a country of emigration. There are thousands of people that every year go away from this country, and the asylum seekers are not going to take their places. Somehow I can say that in the beginning, some people that came in Bosnia and Herzegovina was hoping maybe to find some kind of life here, also because Bosnia and Herzegovina is the only Muslim country, let's say, in Europe, at least one part of it. And the fact that these Muslim brothers didn't accept so well the people that came from abroad was another reason to leave from here. Working on integration is very difficult. We are trying to do that also through official projects. But speaking with the normal people that we meet every day, they just don't have such a good opinion about this country and about its people. And somehow, me as a stranger that choose to live in Bosnia, because somehow I also love this country and these people, somehow it hurts me in the sense that I knew Bosnian people like friendly people. But what I see that they are doing to these refugees, people on the move, is really something that I didn't expect from this population. So it's surprising in a bad way. But working on integration is very, very hard. Also, some people that tried in the end decide to move from here because especially not just the political situation, but also the economical condition and the things they could do are very poor. So they leave. They leave because there is no way here.
Sorry, dogs were barking again. Cyrille, would you continue what you were saying when you became frozen?
I have no idea when I became frozen.
Yeah, you were talking about this women coming. The line is very blurred between who is leading the workshop, who is the welcoming, and. So.
I think that it's just yeah, I don't know. There are times where you have a gathering, and you find that even among the most well-meaning people, people have a hard time to really go beyond their own borders, their own fears or their own insecurities to try to communicate with someone in a different language. Maybe they don't have the same shared language, but still there's a lot that can be done. I mean, we have women who've coming for years and we still don't have a shared language. Of course, it's getting better over time, but there's so much that can happen. And so I think that there's, there are different levels of awareness. You might have someone who's politically aware, or, we've even had cases of people who are working at, let's say, an awareness and advocacy, but never really had sort of a direct, meaningful interaction. And one time we were organizing for one of the parties. Sometimes we do cooking together at the premises, but on this one particular occasion, we organized to pair women up together and to do cooking in people's houses. And then after bring the food and together we share it. And so this was a person who I would have thought, would already know that, of course, it's probably very unlikely that she's going to have someone who speaks either Croatian or English or whatever other language she speaks. And she emailed to say, oh, it would be nice if next time you could find, an appropriate partner. And and I think I bring it up as an example because I think it's it just goes to show how much there is a lack of real interaction and the ability of people to move beyond their comfort zone. And how to do that is a as part of people who hang out with their language groups as opposed to hanging out together. And so it's just this constant battle where you sort of a constant where you have to question yourself about your approach. Also realize that semantics are important. If we use the word integration, define it as you mean it, as you want it to be. And you realize that it actually contradicts very much the local politics and the local governments, because in generally that's considered that if integrate, they have to learn our language, our customs, our traditions, our identity, not realizing that identity itself is not something that is static. And so it's I wanted to say, but now I lost my train of thought. But I think that even for, in this case, women on the move, it doesn't matter to us particularly whether or not they're staying or how long they're staying. Of course, if you get attached to someone, you would like them to stay. But the reality is, you know, there are times where I've questioned myself and say, you know, what people really want is they want to learn the language and they want a job and they want the papers, and none of that I can do. And definitely teaching the language, you know, not least of all, but I can't do that well. But then, you know, you realize that if you can present at least one space, whether it's physical, but also just in the sense of belonging, even if it's just for a few hours or a few months or a few years, that is so critical to everyone's mental well-being. And that's going to help that individual, myself included, for that moment, but also have repercussions beyond, and at least sort of rebuild this sense of dignity and trust and lost respect that was most probably, you know, obliterated in the journey to here and perhaps beyond, most probably beyond. But at least, you know, there is a sense of hope and a sense of like, okay, this is what normalcy should be, and a sort of reminder of what we do and what we can look forward to as individuals and together as a community.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I was thinking about how often the institutions are kind of trying to do integration in a way that it's so not so genuine and not so natural, but it's mostly like with all these rules and all these papers, and in the end, like the thing that is the most important is completely lost. And how organizations and grassroots movements are kind of not very welcome to do integration, but the way they do it is to provide a space where everyone is welcome and some magic is going on, you know, like in there, and you just let it go somehow, you know, and how for the institutions is something like that is really hard to imagine what's happening there, you know, and that's actually a really good thing, you know. Tajana, you wanted to say something?
No, I just wanted to say that Cyrille really touched me, that it beautifully said what you said. And I agree with everything. And
I think that you should come when you can, and I think it will help you in what you do, very much along the parallel lines, but also in you know, it's a different arena. But that's why we do it, and it's important for all of us. It gives you hope when it's quite dim.
Indeed.
I would also like to say something really, really shortly, connecting myself to what the three of you and Ida as well have been saying. In my opinion, one of the reasons why this, you know, top-down integration approaches led by the institutions mainly fail is that they don't take into account what are the needs of the people. And when I think of the needs of the people, I don't think the people who are coming to Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia, to Italy, anywhere. I'm thinking of all the people. And when I look back to some of my previous experience, as a member of a collective, which is pretty similar to Cyrille's collective, but it was not a women one. It was a collective, you know, formed by women, men, and anyone else, by local people. I'm talking about Italy at the moment. I'm not talking about Serbia, where we are based, talking about country where I'm from. How we made out of nothing in a village, a collective composed by asylum seekers, refugees, migrants, and local, is just bringing together which are our needs of young people, needs of people living in the rural area, where there is very little economic development, where is the cultural activity, where it's very, very little chance to develop oneself. We just thought, okay, we are all here, regardless where we come from. Let's answer to these needs together. And how we could do it, because it's our need, we are those who know the best what we want and how we can achieve it. I'm very, very skeptical that a local institution can come to us, identify our needs, even of the citizens. They don't know how to do it, and give us an answer that wouldn't answer to anything that we want, and most of all wouldn't bring us together. So I really encourage and support this approach in which people, if they want to come together with someone or with a group of people who is different from them, let's see which are the common needs. Let's see what's the common interest. Be creative and find ways to answer to them, rather than putting one in the position of the giver and in the position of the helper and in the position of the mediator or whoever. We're just people that can come together and find a lot of solution, even though it sounds very, very scientific. It doesn't have to be.
Can I add something?
Yes.
Along those lines, in terms of finding out what our needs are, one of the things that we've done a little bit differently this year was to try to focus more on the process of participatory decision making. And so, for example, this year, so we've done things out in public for dimensions, but one of the major things that happened this year is that we worked together on a banner saying they will not kill us all, love and rage, and participated in the Women's March. And that was a really big thing for all of us, in that it's created a sense of community, but also individual and communal empowerment, which is really what this whole thing is about. And it's, but to get to that, we really tried to have collective discussions on what is the message that will be on the banner. And now we try to do this, like if journalists contact us, it takes so much time. Try to have meetings together where we sort of say, okay, these are the questions, what would you answer? We try to do Google Translate however many languages necessary. And so it seemed a bit unreal to me, but one time we tried to do this meeting where we wanted to discuss project. Some of us had an idea and we wanted to discuss it with everyone about, and it was basically, we called it No Borders, Women Age in Conversation, Tea and Ceramics. I had mentioned it earlier. So we were about 12 women from as many different countries. We had some people on Zoom, and we were doing Google Translate, Turkish, Farsi, Arabic, Swahili, etc. I could do the French part. That was good. But and we were trying to sort of discuss it. Part of it was like, some women would look at you who don't even have an email address and never use email, and they're sort of looking at you big-eyed, like, what are you talking to me about? Project proposal, budgets, funding, donors. And but then at the other hand, it was like, well, but maybe this is key, right? This is so as not to so intimidate, alien. Let me show you some of the process. You can give me some of your ideas. So in that meeting, some of them were talking about certain things that they wanted. And so then for the next project proposal, which which was unfortunately refused, we included some of, you know, what was coming out of it. And it takes a lot more time, but this focus on the process and participatory decision making, it's not just, you know, who's going to serve tea and coffee, but how do you bring it to the next level where together we decide, you know, how are we going to distribute funds that we get from when we get funds, let's say from bazaar, from selling some of the things we make. And some people will look at you and say, you know, like, I trust you, you go ahead and make the decision. But to try to turn it around saying, no, but please give me your opinion, give your ideas, and let's try to analyze this together. And so I think it's the next step in really community building. And again, it doesn't really matter how long people stay, but it's sort of consciousness every step of the way of how can you break it down to involve more. It's not about the numbers so much, but so that they then get a sense of appropriation of both the process and whatever comes, whether the project happens or not.
Yes, thank you, Cyrille. And I would round it like this, with this, what you just said. And for the rest of the time, we would open it for questions. If somebody has some, you can also write it in the group chat, but you can also turn on your mics and ask if you have anything to ask.
It would be nice, you know, to know who is here, and, you know, even if you would like to turn on your camera or, you know, or not, however you feel, if you have some questions, something to add, something that was left unsaid, feel free. Okay, Anna is asking.
Hello. I briefly introduce myself because I actually am Italian, but I live in Croatia since many years because I live in Rijeka. For me, it's been very interesting to hear your stories, and I really wanted for a long time to find some contacts also in Croatia, because usually, I mean, I know of Silvia, I've been to Bosnia many times. I engage in murals for the refugee camps, all kinds of stuff we did recently. And I have a difficult position right now because of being a foreigner here in Croatia. I don't have a privileged status, and whatever you explain about the Croatian climate, I totally agree. At the same time, I think there's a lot of potential for me. Actually, I engage all the time. I've been doing a lot of work in the Karlovac, Vojnić, Sisak area. So somebody mentioned it before. And it's been so difficult for me to have families that I helped for years, refugee families from the war, who are not open, who see these new refugees as dangerous, you know. And so every time that I can go and visit one of them and somehow make him feel different, make him realize, talk with them, you know, make him see the other side, because they're heavily influenced by media, by propaganda, you know. So it's a huge work, you know, in humanizing this area. And sometimes I think it almost has to be done one by one. I don't know. You said something like that, Cecile, it's your name. I agree with you, because the minute, sometimes it's good to have a propaganda, something you do on Facebook or whatever. I always post things, not that, but that one by one change of mentality can really affect a lot more people almost, you know. And in any case, I just wanted to say that I would like to keep in touch with you if you have any contacts. Also, I do a lot of art projects and ceramic and all kinds of things that you mentioned. So I'm super interested in cooperating more, and I'm very thankful for everything you shared. And I really admire you, because even Tajana, what you share about your personal loss, I know, because I took a refugee here in my house here 2 years ago. I found him in the street, and I was followed by the police and threatened. And of course, you know, there's a cost to pay, there's a price to pay, because I have to think about my work here, my other type of things. You know, will I jeopardize everything? So I almost kind of didn't want to get involved in Croatia. I'm involved in Bosnia and in Italy. Like I skipped Croatia altogether because of this, you know. But there must be a third way, and so if you leave me, if there's a way to get your contacts, then we can keep in touch and talk some more. That's all.
Anna, you can remind that we have another event this night. If somebody wants to see me again at 8:30, I don't know, you can put the link in the chat.
I wanted to say, yes, that I am since January part of this other movement called Walk of Shame. I don't know if you heard them. They send a plane to I mean, all kinds of stuff. And tonight we have another meeting, which I'm moderating, at 8:30. So yes, I can put so you can meet more people, actually. I think a lot of people, the more united we are, the more aware we are, the more we cooperate, the stronger we're going to be in upholding, and like you said, taking care of the carer too, because the care, we need encouragement. I've been very encouraged by what you're sharing, because I went through an incredible personal year I won't talk about, but Silvia knows. And so now for me, it's like, okay, let's give it a new start. And so yes, I will put the link on the chat, and if you can also put your whatever contacts you want to. That's all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to comment or to ask?
Yeah, I will just read the comment we have in the chat, and the comment says, I think you are all doing wonderful work during very difficult times.
Indeed, Jeff. Thank you very much. Okay, if there are no comments and no questions, then we would make a closure. The next meeting will be on the 24th of October, so it will be Serbian, sorry, but we would encourage everybody who understands any dialect of any of the Balkan languages to join. And thank you very much. It was very inspiring also for me, and it gives new hope and new generator of activism. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and when it comes to this, just before closing, because that's something I should have done in the beginning, I would really like to thank the Reconstruction Women Fund, which is a foundation from Serbia who is supporting these, events. And, keep them in mind when you want to organize something similar in Serbia, or, those who do, because they do support different, shapes of women activism and support to women activism.
Okay.
It was very nice.
You're presenting it.
Yeah, thank you very much to all of you for this event, and thanks Tajana and Cyrille for what you do somewhere around.
Hopefully we'll meet you soon.
Yeah,
when you Zagreb or vice versa.
After this COVID, because anytime when I go back, I need to make a town test, and it's not so comfortable. Wait a little, and I will come.
Okay.
Okay, we are not getting the link for this event. Anna, can you please link it? And then we will, she's trying, I guess.
No, I'm trying to find it. I'm so sorry. I'm a little bit, I'm going to my Facebook thing. Maybe Silvia, can you find it quicker than me? I am trying to find it, but I sent you the, 1 second, because I am not so technological. We have one tonight and one tomorrow night, but tonight is specifically about Bosnia. Okay, I found here the link. I thought it was, okay, listen, is that it? Did I put it? Yeah. Sorry, it came to, I wrote it to Cyrille because I don't know exactly.
Yes, thank you.
You see it? You see it? Okay. I will find, and I will, yes, and I'm copying now all your contacts, and hopefully we can keep in touch.
Super, great. On Zoom.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, people, thank you very much for your time and for listening and for sharing and for your honesty. And we hope to keep in touch. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Bye.
Thank you for having us. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.